Welcome to another edition of the Bullheaded Podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and P. Bush. How you guys doing?
Doing all right, man. A little dry in the sports world, as I'm sure Zoo can attest. But my boy Tim Anderson's in the All-Star game tonight, representing my White Sox. So go Timmy. And I think Liam actually got nodded too, our closer. So happy about that for those guys. That's enough baseball talk, right, Zoo?
Tim Anderson, man. That sounds like a default
Hey, he left.
MLB, man.
He denied college
Default
basketball to
catcher.
go play professional baseball.
Oh, really?
One over the other, yeah.
Wow.
More money.
Yeah, there's a lot more money in baseball.
If you make
Sure.
it, man. If you
Yeah.
make it, man.
If you make it.
All I know is if you're in the minor leagues, man, you're making like $30K
Yeah,
and you're like stuck there. You're
Yep.
stuck in poverty.
it's a long road.
It is a long road.
Very long road. But yeah, like I say, it is not so much the middle of July, but it's towards the end of July, and the sports cycle has kind of slowed down. More so with football and basketball. There hadn't really been any NBA trades, a lot of rumors. And one of those rumors is Donovan Mitchell. I think Danny Ainge at first kind of tried to play, like, hey, we'll maybe deal Donovan in the middle of the season, do the All-Star break, we'll see what the team looks like. But then I feel like that was a lot of posturing on his part. And we know Danny Ainge, he's one to tear it down and make deals. So Donovan Mitchell has been the latest one on the block. And, there's been a lot of teams that have been, I guess, positioning to try to get him with, I guess you could say a myriad of offers. So I wanted to ask the guys, what do they think is the best fit for Donovan? Do you actually think he'll be traded? And P. Bush, I'm going to start with you on this one.
This is tough, man, because we've seen a couple pictures with him down in Miami, hanging out with Pat Riley,
Yes,
that
sir.
whole crew. And I do think that would be, I mean, if he's looking to like be on a playoff contender and arguably championship contender immediately, the Heat is the best option. The only thing is they don't have the draft capital
No, they don't.
to incorporate a third team. So I'm actually going to take it in a different direction, Zoo. I think this could just be a nice splash play for a team that is rising in the Eastern Conference. I think the Cavaliers could try.
What?
And come off. Now, let's just hear me out.
I want to hear this.
This isn't his number one. It's not his destination. I want to go to Cleveland and all that. But you got to remember, this is a trade, right? He might have a say, and he can tell his agent to work it in whichever way. But look, man, pairing him up with Darius Garland and that front court that they have, if they could sign and trade Sexton on a pretty solid deal and send him off to Utah with Isaac Okoro and Karis LeVert and some first rounders, maybe 2 or 3, I think that's enough compared to something that like the Knicks could offer, right? They might be offering quickly, Obi Toppin. Who else might they be tossing? Fournier, maybe just for contract purposes.
Yeah, because his contract's big. That's it.
But if you're looking for like a solid guy who might be undervalued right now in Colin Sexton, I think that if they could get a good sign and trade on a cheaper contract than expected, maybe that 12, 13 million, why wouldn't you try and make that trade? Especially because Karis LeVert's no scrub either. And Okoro's a solid role player too. So if you add in 3 first rounders there, pairing Garland up with Donovan Mitchell and some of those guys in the front court, Markkanen, Jared Allen, all those guys, it could be nice, but it could be nice, but it's not a destination place. But look, man, I'd argue that that's a better destination than the Knicks. So if he can't go the Heat,
outside,
I would. If I were the Cavs, I'd be thinking, all right, if we want to really take this seriously in our rise, it might be worth it.
Nah,
like
the Cavs GM ain't good enough to pull that off, man.
Well,
Ain't good enough to pull that
I
off.
got a little faith.
Yeah, Kobe Altman, man. He needs some finessing to pull that off, man. Getting Donovan to Utah, because Utah, man, they're going to take this year. They're not going to try to win any games. So I don't feel like they want any guys to elevate their win record because they'll be taking for the French kid, right? A lot of teams like the San Antonio Spurs, I think Utah's going to join the race and tank it down, man. They'll probably be 1-2 this year, trying to tank for a potential transcendent player. So I feel like they don't even want any players back. They only want draft capital for future. Pull in Oklahoma City, man. Just give us all your future unprotected picks. And do you know what picks are beautiful like that? The New York Knicks unprotected, man. There's something about the New York Knicks unprotected versus something like the Miami picks, man. Like Miami's gonna be winning games. It's like, this is a solid franchise, man. Good at the top, man. Good management, good head coach. Like they're going to be at least a 500 ball club for the next half decade with Jimmy Butler in his prime. So those picks can be worth nothing, and they don't have enough first-round picks, and they're young. Like Duncan Robinson, that's a liability, man. That's $90 million contract that they want to get rid of. That's $90 million on the bench. So if you add him in as an asset, no, that's a liability. So, no, they got nothing. Tyler Hero, you want to pay Tyler Hero, the six-man, $25 million a year? No, thank you. No, thank you. I don't want Tyler Hero on my team making $25 million. Probably Miami would try to get rid of him right now because they probably don't want to extend him.
Yeah.
Because he's just a sixth man, man. He's a type of character, type of player, man. But then the New York Knicks, though, man, I see this as a Carmelo Anthony situation, man. Getting flashbacks, man. Both these kids, man, both from the New York area, man. He was from the little Westchester area in New York, man. So he's from the area. He wants to go there, and the Knicks are desperate. That's the thing. They are desperate.
That's when you make bad decisions.
Yeah, they are desperate, man. They need a star. Like Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, those guys ain't all-star caliber players, man. You need at least one. Getting the first one's always the hardest, and Danny Ainge's going to know that, and Danny Ainge's going to ask for at least 5 first-round picks, man, unprotected. Actually, you got 4 of the Knicks unprotected picks, and then you got those garbage picks that are protected. So they're not as valuable, but you're going to at least get 4 New York Knicks picks and sprinkle in those one or 2 picks or whatever. Get you Obi Toppin, who showed some things at the end of the year, man.
Yeah, he did.
He showed some things as a nice little
Quickly is nice too.
Yeah, Quickly, a little scrappy guy, a little Quentin Grimes, man. Got some nice little young players, man. Perfect for tanking. I feel like they don't want to win any games, man. The Danny Ainge philosophy, get a high draft pick this year, man. I feel like they don't want any players to return, and then the Knicks got to keep RJ Barrett. They try to win now. They're trying to be relevant. They're trying to be like the Chicago Bulls, man. Be relevant. Be a 6th, 7th, 8th seed, man. Make the playoffs, man.
That's the worst.
Be competitive. They're the New York Knicks, man. They get hyped over first round games, man. So this town's don't have that high of expectations, man. This ain't like the Lakers, man, trying to win a championship every year. So I feel like if you get Donovan Mitchell, man, you get a cornerstone guy, even though you're gonna have to overpay. Because like I feel like they're negotiating right now. Like I feel the deal is guaranteed to get done. Because like there's just too much upside, man, for the Knicks to get their potential star, because they've been waiting this day for a long time. That a star wants to actually come to New York City. And he's 25. He's not old.
Yeah.
He's not like 30, 31, 32.
They better get him to re-sign eventually.
Oh, he's from New York. Oh, he's definitely going to get re-signed, man. Like,
how many years does he have left?
3 years left. 3 years left.
Okay.
So like 3 years left. Yeah. Potential extension. You get his entire prime. So from 25, and if he extends to like 30, 31, 32, that's pretty much his entire prime of a player. So you're not overpaying for a guy that has, I don't know, like a Kevin Durant and like maybe 3-4 years left. You're getting a guy's entire prime career. So if I'm the New York Knicks, man, they're gonna give in. They're gonna try to play hardball, man, but they couldn't resist, man. Spida Mitchell, man, maybe a homecoming for Spider-Man in New York City, man. Maybe a homecoming, man.
It's for what you're arguing, Zoo. I do think that's the best way to handle it. I do think you're right. They want to go Utah. Speaking on them, they want that French kid, right? I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah.
But
they got rid of one French guy for another, man. I feel like that's the plan, man.
Yeah,
shipped out Rudy.
At the same time, though, the Knicks are desperate way more than the Cavs would be. But we don't know what's going on.
Cavs are content. They're like, we got a nice team right now.
They do, but they also have way too many point guards, I think, personally. They have, they have
Sexton.
Garland, Sexton, Karis LeVert can kind of run point too, Rubio, all those guys. I think they might, if you could move 2 of those guys and get you a combo guard, which they desperately need because they need Garland to be more of a facilitator than asking him to score 25 a game. I'm not saying this deal will happen because, to your point, Sue, you got to be kind of desperate to pull one of these off. Yep. But I do think that if the Jazz were to add Sexton and LeVert, it would not affect.
Yeah, I feel like it really would. It probably would.
And you got to remember,
those guys are definition of like they can get some nice numbers, but they ain't helping you win any games.
And Zoo, refresh my memory. Isn't the bottom 3 picks now the same amount of odds to get the first overall pick, or was that just a one-off thing in the lottery?
Bottom 3.
I'm not sure.
It's flat to 15%.
So you don't necessarily have to be the worst team in the league. You just got to be in the bottom 3. And I think they'll be there either way, no matter what trade they pull off here, because to your point, they have nobody else, unless you're asking, is Mike Conley even there next year? And so I don't know. It's Donovan will be fun to watch. I do think the Heat should try and pull it off, but they need to incorporate a third team.
Yeah, he's the perfect fit there because they could win a championship.
Exactly.
They were missing one scorer.
Yep.
They were missing a sidekick for Jimmy Butler. Because Bam Adebayo, that dude on offense, man, I'm sorry, man. Like, he's supposed to be an up-and-coming star, but him on offense, sometimes a liability. He doesn't even look at, like, he can't shoot the 3 for some reason. Even though he has, like, a nice little mid-range, his 3-point game, he didn't make a 3 last year, man. So I'm like, he can't really shoot outside of the paint. The guy doesn't look at the basket. Guy was irrelevant on offense. So you need a secondary bucket scorer that's not Tyler Hero.
Right.
Tyler Hero cannot be your second ball handler and score. So Donovan Mitchell, that team will win a championship, I feel like, if he goes there. But Miami don't got the assets, though, man. Even though I feel like Donovan down there, that's like that's the missing piece to solidify a championship case. But
if you're the Knicks, and obviously you got Donovan wanting to go to the Knicks as like part of your bargaining, I guess you could say. So you're going to be giving up draft compensation. But is there any trade that the Jazz asked for? Because we know they're probably going to be trying to take. But if they ask for RJ and Obi in that trade, is it just like no?
I don't think they want RJ because you have to pay RJ.
You think he scored? You think he's going to be too good? Well, he hasn't signed his extension yet, has he?
Yeah, they'll extend him. A lot of the stuff out there is they don't want money back right now. They want a clean cap space for Danny Ainge to play ball. But RJ Barrett's going to demand a max contract extension. Like, that's what he's going to want. So
I was just trying to think because it's like I really like Obi Toppin, especially, and I know they always say towards the end of the year.
Oh, yeah,
like,
he dropped the 30.
The stats, whatever, because teams are not trying. But I think Obi, in like his compliment to Donovan, if like Obi's still on that team, I like him a lot with RJ, or not RJ, but with Donovan, because just his ability to shoot three, athletic wing, maybe he can improve his defense a little bit more. I really like that fit. Now, I don't like the backcourt at all, Brunson and Donovan, but I'm in the mode of if I do get Mitchell, if that doesn't work, go trade Brunson in a year or two. Like, I'm not going to keep Brunson if it's not a fit. You can always flip him. Somebody will take him. But like,
for $20 million?
They might take. I mean, was it 4 years you got?
Yeah, 4 years.
4 years, 20 years.
Close to 110.
If he's not an abject disaster, you might get something from him. But it's gonna be that's a tough backcourt defensively. Like
6'1".
That's tough. That's gonna be a real
6'1"
tough
backcourt.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of mismatches. You might have to. It might be a situation where somebody's gonna have to stagger and be off the court and it's probably not gonna be Mitchell. So Brunson might. I know he came in inside the big contract, but it's like having him on both sides of the floor, unless Donovan, somehow when he gets to the Knicks becomes this elite defender, because he does have the tools. He's not like he's a short guy, but he has a huge wingspan. So he's not like a small guard. So it's like if he took the challenge to be like a plus defender, then maybe it could work. But for the Knicks, I think you have to do this trade because it just makes you relevant. And you know how this league is, man. If you can acquire a star, then who knows in the next 2 to 3 years who's pissed off and who's whatever. And it's like, I like Donovan Mitchell. He's a great guy. He's a guy that you could play with. He's not going to demand a lot. I may want to go there and play with him. So for the Knicks, this is a no-brainer. And with the draft picks, it's just, Danny Ainge, if you're trading with him, you kind of already got to go in the mindset of, you're going to get probably screwed on the trade. So I just wouldn't even be caring about that if I'm the Knicks. I would just try to get it done. Like I say, Miami is, I think, the better fit, but they don't have the assets. Yeah. The only way I see that trade happening is if Danny Ainge is just trying to do Miami Heat a favor. That would be the only reason why.
And then it'll never happen because he hates Pat Riley.
He hates Pat Riley.
Yeah. I don't get it basketball.
Boston Miami series.
Yeah, but I personally would probably like to see Donovan in Miami just because. Yeah, we would have some conversations about who's going to be number one in the East. Then we would have some real serious conversation. I think the top would be Heat, Celtics, and Milwaukee. If you tell me they're going to win the East, I'm not mad at you because, yeah, Donovan gives them that. Like you say, if Donovan is inserted in that Boston series, they probably win that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man.
Oh,
probably.
They're relying on guys like Gabe Vincent and Max Strus.
Yeah.
Hey,
Max hit some big shots, almost clutching up that Game 7 though.
Man. Dude, I'm like, I give that Heat team props, man. Bunch of undrafted dudes chucking up threes and almost beat the Boston Celtics.
Only the Heat
props. Man. Jimmy Butler, a bunch of bozos, man. A bunch of no names there.
Yeah, big time. Jimmy Butler, we all know he's a playoff guy. And Donovan, I would say his bubble
28 points a game in the playoffs.
His bubble performance kind of put him on the scene in terms of playoff stuff. And then after that, he's just consistently been a pretty good player. I think the only criticisms you have about him is his defense. And if he, he's still young. If he, puts his effort into it, and he's like you say, if he's playing for a team or a franchise he wants to play for, maybe he'll do that. So we'll see what Donovan. I am interested too to also to see if this trade happens like in the next couple of days, just because I feel like if you're, I don't know, say New York, I feel like you kind of, and I know like next couple of days it's still July, but like August, basketball, like I just feel like you want to get intertwined with the team and get all that out of the way. You
Yeah.
don't want this going all the way down into like September or August or whatever to where it's like no unity. So I would like to see that, but we're gonna see. Like you say, there's so many trades in the NBA, things that's gonna be happening. Um, you know, shifting the focus. Definitely gonna be talking about football coming up right around the corner. I don't know if people notice. Like I say, into July, August is fantasy football season. It's so much. It's been. You don't want to talk about the NBA would change. The NFL has had a huge facelift in terms of just teams being altered and divisions being altered. And one of those divisions is the AFC West. I think most people have seen, the AFC West of past where it's been kind of considered the Kansas City Chiefs division, with Patrick Mahomes. But, you look now, it's Russell Wilson with the Broncos, Derek Carr with the Raiders, Justin Herbert with the Chargers, and then, of course, Patrick Mahomes with the Kansas City Chiefs. So I wanted to ask the guys some of the storylines that they're looking forward to with the AFC West. Not so much predictions, but just what do we think the division is going to look like, how competitive it's going to be, things of that nature. And Zoo, I'm going to start with you.
Man, it's crazy because in the past, man, don't even need to look. Kansas City, just lock it in, man. Just lock it in, man.
That was your favorite pick of the year, Zoo.
It's the easiest pick of the year. It's the easiest. Their offense is so seamless. Everyone else has a minor flaw. But you look at the team now, man. What's the biggest loss of this Kansas City team? They got a bunch of draft picks, but they lost their best weapon.
Yep.
Their Tyreek Hill. So they lost their best offensive threat as a wide receiver. Mahomes' favorite YOLO guy. He just flicks it up.
Now he's got MVS.
When things goes like McCall Hardman?
Hardman? He has Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They signed him.
I've seen Marquez. That dude average, man.
Yeah, product of Aaron.
You're now going from Tyreek Hill, A+ wide receiver to this Marquez like a C-. That's the tier drop off of wide receiver talent, right? And then you look at the competition because they won 12 games last year. They actually had a little rough start. Like 5 losses is more than I actually thought. My prediction, but like the Raiders, man, they won 10 games last year with all the atrocities like on and off the court, just disaster after disaster. And they had Devontae Adams with Derek Carr. Yeah, I'm scared of the Raiders, man. I'm scared of the Vegas Raiders, man. I'm scared of that offense, man. I'm scared of that offense. And they won 10 games last year. 10 games when everything goes wrong. I feel like they're guaranteed at least 10 wins plus this year. And I feel like Kansas City is going to win less games. So I feel like the Raiders are probably the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs, man. Can't believe I just said it, man. And I can't wait to watch him because I feel like Derek Carr having a guy like Devontae Adams, man, having a go-to guy, having Darren Wall, like these weapons that he's got.
Win for
more pass-heavy offense, man. Like Josh Jacobs, he's pretty mid-running back.
Contract year.
Yeah, he did a contract year. Hopefully he balls out, but I feel like that offense be deadly. And I always like the Raiders defense. So I feel like the Raiders, man, they coming, man. Like they won 59% of their games last year with disaster. So I feel like they're guaranteed to do better than last year. So my God. And I haven't even spoke of Russell Wilson. You get Drew Lock out of there, get Russell Wilson in the building. Man, that's 3 wins right there.
Talk about
that's
over.
That's just 3 wins right there. So I'm just like, Jesus Christ, this division is gonna be nasty, man. Like it's gonna be a bloodbath just to win 10 games. Because they play each other 2 times each, man. Come on. No freebies, man. No freebies.
I think they'll all split. I swear. I
really?
think, like if you look at all the division series, I think they're all gonna split. Maybe there will be, I don't know if everyone's gonna win their home games and everyone's gonna lose their away games, but I do think there's gonna be a lot of 1-1s in the divisional records this year. Zoo, I agree with you, man. I was just looking at all these teams. I will say the Chiefs have the hardest schedule out of all these 4 teams. They all have pretty difficult schedules. I think they face the Colts, who, with Matt Ryan, I'm sure they'll actually be pretty decent, especially in that.
Yeah, they're a really good team. I think they're a good team.
Yeah, they're a good team, and then you add in a bit more consistent of a quarterback for however you want to compare that to Carson Wentz. But all the teams they play the Rams. But man, listen to the outside of the division. This is the Chiefs. They play the Colts, the Cardinals, the Bucks, the Bills, the Titans, the Rams, the Bengals, and the Niners. That is
it's like all playoff teams, man. That's legitimately all playoff teams.
I actually, Zoo, I think I got them. I probably have them at about 10-7 this year.
Yeah,
they did address their secondary, which I thought was pretty important. I think that was easily their biggest downside, just like 2 years ago when it was their offensive line. This is tough, man, because I I like the Raiders, Zoo, but they brought in Josh McDaniels. And I'm not saying Josh McDaniels is a bad coach. He's kind of been inconsistent in his career, unless he's been under Belichick for all the years that he was there and then went back. Never really succeeded as a head coach. And I actually thought the interim last year, the fact that he brought them to the playoffs at 10-7 with everything that you mentioned, Zoo, I thought they should have given him a 1-year shot. I know they wanted to bring in a high caliber offensive guy, with Devontae coming in. They also brought in Chandler Jones on the defensive side to line up with Max Crosby on the defensive end. That's pretty scary if you're one of the 3 arguably top 10 quarterbacks. They have 4 of the top 10 to 12 quarterbacks in the league right now in this division.
It's crazy.
Which is ridiculous. Broncos, it's all going to be on health with this one, I think. I mean, Russell, we know what he can do. Cortland Sutton, can he stay healthy? They did lose Noah Fant, but they still have Jerry Jeudy and Sutton. Tim Patrick's no scrub either. I do like Javonte Williams a lot, though. I think he's gonna be big, especially in a pretty pass heavy.
Oh yeah, they brought Russell Wilson in to pass the ball.
Yeah, they brought him in to pass, but they might have. Besides, if Eckler can stay healthy, they might have the best back in the division. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I don't really believe in. We know what Josh Jacobs.
I don't like Clyde at all.
His inconsistency. If Eckler can stay healthy, then obviously we know he's the best in the division. And that takes me right to the Chargers, man. I got them as the biggest threat.
There you go.
I have them winning this division at 12-5. I think all 4 teams could make the playoffs, but I think realistically, they might get 2 out of the 3 wild card spots, possibly with the other one coming out of the AFC North. But yeah, man, I think the Chiefs lost a lot of people. They tried to bring people in. The Raiders have a lot of turnover. We don't really know what we're going to see. If Devontae Adams is the Devontae we know, then I'm sure, they're going to be atop the division or in that consideration. And then the Broncos, once again, they completely overhauled everything. New coaching, new quarterback, lost some weapons, added some. But this Chargers team did not lose anybody. And and all they did was they bettered their defensive side. They signed J.C. Jackson. Sean, big fan of J.C. Jackson there on the corner. They got Khalil Mack opposite of Joey Bosa now. Probably the best 1-2 combo on the D-line. Absolutely ridiculous. And I think that, if they can take a next step, and this is, I think, a lot on Herbert, obviously, and Brandon Staley. If Brandon Staley is going to be Mr. Analytics, maybe trust your gut a little bit more than just reading at the numbers, because I think you have to take that into account a bit more. But I think Herbert's going to take this next step, man. He kept all of his weapons. But this all relies on Staley, Herbert, and then Eckler's health. I think that's the biggest thing. So they could have a low floor if people get injured and coaching is off. But I think they have the highest ceiling, just with the talent and the consistency that they're bringing in year over year. So I got the Broncos at the bottom of the division, which at what, like 9-8, 10-7 probably.
I'm with you with the Chargers, man. I kind of just feel like Herbert's going to take the next step, which is always important for any team's success. The quarterback has to take the next step. I think he's going to do that. I am iffy on the head coach a little bit, especially with some of his decision making.
Lost a lot of games last year, man.
Yeah, the analytics stuff. I'm not like, I agree with analytics for the most part. I would say 80%, but sometimes you just have to use common sense and go with your gut more so than just the analytics, which I know can be maybe hard, because you probably got a lot of guys on staff who are telling you stuff in the headset that's messing with your entire, train of thought. But I just think, man, the defensive upgrades the Chargers made, man, like you say, you got 2 bookends. If Khalil Mack plays at least up to par to what he can play like, you got 2 bookend, rush ends. And then for me, even with J.C. Jackson, you got Derwin James back there as well. You got Asante Samuel, who got injured towards the end of the year, but he could be a nice guy in the slot that can shut that down. He's got the pedigree. He had a I guess you could say a decent start to the season last year. So it's like, if you get all the guys on that defense playing up to their potential, like say you got Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, who's one of the more underrated receivers. Like, we never talk about Keenan Allen, but all he does is get open and catch like passes. So I feel yeah, for real. Like, so I feel like he's going to be, if Justin Herbert ends up taking the next step, he's going to be a big part in that. So I just think the Chargers have a lot of potential, and a lot of it's based around Herbert. Kansas City, I just think because of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, I think the offense is still going to be fine. Now, they're not going to be as explosive, but I just think they're going to rely more on Kelsey. I think some of the draft picks they made, it could be they're rookies, so you don't want to depend on them. But I think Patrick Mahomes can make those guys a little bit better. Defensively, we'll see. I feel like it's always wait and see with Kansas City. Uh, if they make a surprising jump, then that may put them at the top. The Raiders, I'm not as big on Derek Carr. I think he's an okay quarterback, and I'm interested to see how that affects Devontae. If Derek Carr does what he's supposed to do, and he maybe takes, I wouldn't even say a huge step, but just takes a step because of Devontae's play, then the Raiders, to Zoo's point, will be they'll be a big dark horse because people are forgetting about Hunter Renfrow. He's just always open too. Darren Waller, like you say, they have interchangeable backs. Their defense is pretty solid. Broncos are interesting because while they have like receivers and they got probably one of the best emerging backs, defensively, I feel like they're always going to be okay because it's the Broncos, but I'm not too sure about them.
Certain.
And with Russ, I don't know if there's going to be maybe an adjustment. Like I know Judy, had his issues last year. I think he was injured for probably like 8, 9, 10 games last year.
He missed pretty much the entire season.
Yeah. So it's like that kind of, I guess the synergy, that's going to be something to look at. I think to me, if you're looking at two teams, the Raiders and the Broncos, if Derek Carr, whoever gets faster on page faster with Derek Carr and Devontae and Russell Wilson and Judy, I think is going to be where you could who's going to be jockeying for second. Like you say, if you finish last in this division, like, okay, like you might end up being, you might probably be in the playoffs or close to the playoffs. So I don't think it's going to be like you have a bad season. This talks about, I just think it speaks to the depth of this conference. But if I'm picking a team who I think can win the division, I think it's going to be the Chargers. I think they're just going to take that step. And I think that sounds crazy with Patrick Mahomes being there and he's won a Super Bowl. But it kind of, I think the Chargers have this, like, it's just this. And you know what else is affecting me and why I'm saying this is because you see, and I'm not comparing him to Joe Burrow, but I just think you see a team like the Cincinnati Bengals come out of nowhere, and it's because Joe Burrow took that step. It's kind of just like now everybody I feel like is like, okay, who's the next quarterback that can do that? And Justin Herbert seems primed to,
and Herbert's team
to do that.
Is just a lot better.
Yeah,
it's just a lot better. The talent around him, man, he's giving blessings on blessings. Like that Bengals team, I didn't think it was that good. Their offensive line was atrocious. Obviously, they had good weapons, but the whole line was terrible. So, what Joe Burrows did last year, I thought was a miracle. So Herbert got a lot of the tools, and I would say they're the same tier level quarterback. So he should be more productive and should win more games this year.
Yeah. But we'll see. Like you say, AFC West out of all of the, I guess you say, divisions in the NFL, that's probably going to be the most competitive. Like you say, nobody, further down in like September or not September, but like late August, we'll have like real predictions of who we think is going to win these different types of divisions. And we're going to be bringing out more content about, not every division in the NFL, but the more competitive divisions in the NFL. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Same deal, bullheaded_pod. We do a lot of content on there for Instagram right now. I'm not going to lie, it's kind of slow. I'm trying to be more creative with things that we can post. But that'll kind of change because I think the NBA usually always bails me out with certain content that I can post. And, if not, if it gets dire, then I'll just have to post something about baseball, which sometimes does pretty well. It does pretty well sometimes with baseball. Like it's not because
it's hard to get
the fastest post with like likes, but like it matriculates over time, which is when I watch the algorithms. Like people will see it. I just think baseball people may not be on, I guess, Instagram as much, but
there's 60-year-olds retired in Miami. Man. That's where they at, man. They're on the radio, man.
Plus, too, I'm like in the South, and I mean, people like baseball down here, but I mean, it's still football country. So, like, a lot of people probably are not looking towards the baseball content as much, unless it's like I say, it's a scandal or something. But it is All-Star Weekend, so we'll see. YouTube page, Quantro Knows, same thing, doing different versions of shorts. This podcast will be on there live. Make sure you tune into that. All the DSPs, like I said, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, the whole nine. And for me, Zoo, and P. Bush, wow.